A report on the West Indies men's team performance at the 2022 ICC Men's T20 World Cup was published on Thursday. The Cricket West Indies chief, Ricky Skerritt, held court at a press conference, and he was assisted in answering questions, explaining issues by the gentleman who chaired the three-member panel, Justice Patrick Thompson Jr. And Justice Thompson Jr. is with us now. Justice, thank you for your time. So the issue of unpreparedness, I looked at it. I had some initial comments yesterday, looking at it from the other perspective as to how the preparedness could have been better. So is it that, based on what you were told, it is apparent that the team was under-prepared, or is it that you went further in the full report? Because this is, of course, just an executive summary. Did you go into what ought to have happened in terms of preparation? Or are we just to look at the points you made about being underprepared to say, oh, well, if we're underprepared by virtue of having done this, if we hadn't done this and done something else, we would have been better prepared? I want to understand that.
Again, George, that's a very good question. And again, it requires a sort of multifaceted approach to dissecting the answer. The short answer is the report deals in a more fulsome way with the lack of preparedness. And I say lack of preparedness and explain it in the following way. There are a whole host of factors that go into preparation. And I don't want anyone to walk away with the impression that Justice Thompson Jr. is saying, look, there was this massive lack of preparation or failure to prepare outright by Cricket West Indies. There are a number of factors. One, the scheduling calendar made it extremely difficult to accommodate the sort of pre-World Cup camp that would have been ideal. In fact, of the international teams that went to the Cricket World Cup in 2021, I'm advised that only England and West Indies were the teams that were on the ground in Australia for the period that we were on the ground to acclimatize. So that, of course, and we know England won the tournament. But preparation in this particular instance has a particular nuance to it. Cricket West Indies, the West Indies team, played their matches in Hobart, Australia. Hobart, Australia, at that time of year, and we discuss it more fully in the report, has more in common with the north of England, wet and rainy conditions, than it did, and it was diametrically opposed to the conditions that they just come from in the CPL. That's two. Three, you have a bunch of players who had never set foot in Australia because, for a variety of reasons, pandemic included, West Indies had not been to Australia for some time. We had not played any bilateral series against Australia in Australia for some time. So it is in that context that preparedness explains what happened, as opposed to just general lack of preparedness, that they simply turned up down there and this is what happened. I know I've said so in a number of words, but I wanted you to have a full context because you're not privy, as it were, to the entire report as yet. But those are all matters that go into informing the question of preparedness.
Right, and I really appreciate the answer, the time you took to flesh it out. So here's the last thing I'm asking you in this interview, of course. So my initial reaction yesterday was to say that, you know, I felt some sympathy for Cricket West Indies because of the circumstances, because clearly if you had sent away a group of players who ordinarily would have been in the CPL to Australia to acclimatize, and then the team bombed, you would have heard that those players would have been better off playing in the CPL, getting bat on ball, getting the feel of cricket, and that would have put them in a better place to play. But here it is that we say they were underprepared. But the way you explain it, it makes all the sense in the world. And what it does say, and I don't know if this is something you opined on, but what this says to me as an observer is that it's not as if you're trying to say they were underprepared by virtue of what Cricket West Indies did or didn't do.
Right. Well, it's not for me to say that they were underprepared because of any particular thing that Cricket West Indies did or didn't do. I think with the benefit of hindsight, because fairness requires me to look at the matters in the round, I think with the benefit of hindsight, there perhaps could have been, because again, hindsight is 2020. You can look back now and say that perhaps, and you'll have to correct me as to the number of rounds in the CPL, but you could have said, look, you can play X number of rounds, and then we send you off to Australia. But of course, there are a whole host of factors that go into that. And of course, and I have to emphasize this, it didn't help that they were playing in the Australian ground that is least familiar and there's the least similarity to the conditions. If you went past Melbourne or Sydney or Perth or whatever, then who knows what would have happened. The margins, George, was so bad.
But just, you know why I laughed? I laughed because that seems practical what you've said and sensible. If Cricket West Indies had gone that way to restrict players to a number of rounds before sending them off, you would have heard that Cricket West Indies was trying to weaken certain franchises because they targeted the teams. And so there you go. Justice, I want to thank you for your time. I am out of time. I've taken a lot of time, more than was allotted to speak with you, but we had to get some of this in. And I really appreciate the work that you and the panel did. And when the full report is published, I hope you can find some time to speak with us again.
Can't make any promises, George, but this was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent, sir. Thank you very much. Good. Yeah, so Mariah, we've heard some more on the issue of the under-preparedness, which I felt needed to have been fleshed out because, of course, opinions are formed already about what was meant in the executive summary about the under-preparedness.
Yes.
And I'm happy he has given some more perspective so that a better understanding, a broader understanding, rather than the narrow conclusions that could be drawn from what was said on paper. I think more people have an appreciation now of what he was saying and can agree with the point of underpreparedness.
Yeah, I really appreciate him coming on the show today and, of course, clarifying a lot of things that would have needed clarified. You have to remember that, the average person that tunes in, or of course the average person that reads the document may not understand, and we always have to take that into consideration. So I'm happy that he was able to join us today, and hopefully again.
All right, two things before we go. Juventus, news coming in to our news or to the zone room. Juventus have been docked 15 points in Serie A for accounting scandal at the football club. You'd have heard about that, which caused mass resignation. The president, Andrea Agnelli, walking. Pavel Nedved, a senior official, also walking the plank by virtue of it. So the officials of Serie A, the administrators, have docked Juventus 15 points, so they're nearer relegation than the top of the league. So more woes for Max Allegri and his men. And the next thing is this good news. Are you between the ages of 18 and 24? Are you between the ages of 18 and 24? Do you know someone who's between 18 and 24 who has good footballing talent? If you do, then this announcement is for you. What I'm about to tell you is this. If you send a direct message to SportsMax's Instagram account, find SportsMax on Instagram. Send a direct message with your name, your age, and your contact number. Your name, your age, and your contact number. In other words, what your name, your phone number, and how old you are. Send that to SportsMax's Instagram account by direct message, and your date of birth to verify. Well, you're going to have to verify it, I know, but send your date of birth as well. When were you born? When were you born? So 4 things: age, name, address, when were you born, date of birth. Direct message that to us on Instagram, and you'll be able to win a spot at the Mount Pleasant Football Academy Combine that's going to it's going on now at their vast complex in St. Anne. International scouts are there looking at talent. They have scholarships to give to people to continue playing football. There are some clubs who've sent scouts there to see if they can recruit talent from here to put into their professional and semi-professional teams. And it's not just the USA, it's not just the UK, it's also in the Middle East, in Dubai. So if you have great football skills, if you think that your son is very good at football but hasn't gotten a fair opportunity, if you think you have very good football talent but you can't get a bus, this is the bus for you. Go to SportsMax's Instagram page, send a direct message. We want to know your name in that direct message. We want to know your date of birth. We want to know what is your phone number. Send your address as well. And we will make ready and prepare you to go and play in that Mount Pleasant Combine happening now and for the rest of the weekend over there in St. Anne, or up there in St. Anne, I should say. All right? So send that or send the information, SportsMax, direct message, Instagram, for your chance to realize your football dreams.